The first note hadn't even finished echoing when the room changed. What started as casual chatter and polite smiles turned into something else entirely, an almost electric stillness that wrapped around the audience, the judges, and everyone watching at home. In that instant, you could feel it, this wasn't just another audition. This was the kind of moment people talk about years later. And before we go any further, if stories like this move you, if moments of pure human courage and talent inspire you, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because what you're about to experience is exactly why we share stories like this. He stood alone at the center of the stage, small against the massive lights and towering judges' table. A Filipino kid, barely into his teens, hands trembling slightly as he gripped the microphone. His name was Miguel, though in that moment names felt unimportant. What mattered was the quiet determination in his eyes, the way he inhaled deeply as if carrying not just his breath, but the hopes of an entire homeland. When Simon Cowell asked what he would sing, Miguel's voice was soft but steady as he said, "Lupang Hinirang," the Philippine national anthem. A murmur swept through the audience. An anthem. On this stage. In front of the world. Miguel's mind raced back to where it all began, a cramped apartment in Manila where electricity flickered and rain leaked through the roof during typhoon season. His father worked overseas, sending money when he could. His mother worked long hours at a local market, her hands rough but her smile gentle. Music was Miguel's refuge. Every morning before school, he listened to old recordings of Lupang Hinirang on a battered phone, memorizing every rise and fall, every emotion hidden between the notes. He didn't just want to sing it. He wanted people to feel it. The judges exchanged glances as the music cue began. Simon leaned back, arms crossed, the familiar skeptical expression on his face. He had seen thousands of singers, heard countless emotional backstories. But Miguel didn't look like someone chasing fame. He looked like someone carrying a promise. Then he sang. The first line came out clear, controlled, and filled with reverence. Not loud. Not showy. Honest. The melody floated through the theater like a prayer. Audience members shifted in their seats, drawn in without realizing it. Miguel's voice wasn't just technically impressive, it carried weight, history, sacrifice. With each lyric, you could hear generations, struggles, resilience woven into the sound. Halfway through the song, Miguel's voice cracked, not from weakness, but from feeling. His eyes glistened under the stage lights, and he pressed on, refusing to look away from the judges, refusing to look away from the moment. In the audience, a Filipino nurse clasped her hands to her chest, tears streaming down her face. Beside her, an American veteran stood slowly, instinctively, as if honoring something he couldn't fully explain but deeply respected. Simon Cowell's expression changed. His arms uncrossed. He leaned forward. His eyes softened. For perhaps the first time that night, he wasn't judging, he was listening. When Miguel reached the final note, he held it with everything he had, his small frame steady, his voice soaring. The note hung in the air, trembling, before fading into silence. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the theater erupted. People stood. Applause thundered. Cheers echoed from every corner. Simon wiped at his eyes, clearly shaken. "I don't know what just happened," he said when the noise finally died down, his voice uncharacteristically quiet. "But that was extraordinary." He paused, searching for words. "You didn't just sing a song. You made us feel something real." Miguel bowed his head, tears finally falling freely. In that moment, he wasn't just a kid on a stage. He was a son singing for his parents, a Filipino singing for his country, a child reminding the world that talent isn't measured by where you come from, but by what you carry inside. Back home, his mother watched on a neighbor's television, hands shaking, whispering his name through sobs of pride. His father, thousands of miles away, replayed the clip again and again, unable to stop smiling through tears. And across the world, millions of viewers felt something shift inside them, a reminder that courage can be small, that voices can be bridges, and that music can unite people who share no common language at all. Miguel walked off the stage that night knowing his life had changed, but more importantly, knowing he had honored where he came from. The challenges wouldn't magically disappear. life would still be hard. But he had proven to himself and to the world that dreams born in humble places can reach the brightest stages. And that's why moments like this matter. That's why stories like Miguel's deserve to be shared. If this story touched your heart even a little, show your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Because somewhere out there, another kid is standing on a small stage, taking a deep breath, hoping their voice will be heard. The lights hadn't even fully settled when something unusual happened in the theater. Conversations faded, popcorn went untouched, and a strange tension crept into the air, as if everyone, from the front row to the furthest seat at home, instinctively knew they were about to witness a moment that would not be forgotten. This wasn't just another audition. This was the kind of moment that makes people lean closer to their screens, the kind that gives you goosebumps before anything even begins. And before this story unfolds, if you believe in raw talent, real emotion, and stories that remind us why dreams matter, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because moments like this deserve to be shared with the world. A small figure stood alone at the center of the massive AGT stage. The lights made him look even smaller, almost fragile, yet there was a quiet strength in the way he held the microphone. His name was Miguel Santos, a 13-year-old Filipino boy whose sneakers were slightly worn and whose suit had clearly been borrowed or carefully saved for. His hands trembled just a bit, not from fear alone, but from the weight of what this moment meant. The judges smiled politely, unaware that in a few minutes, their entire perspective would shift. When asked why he came to America's Got Talent, Miguel swallowed hard and spoke softly. He said he wanted to sing not just for himself, but for his family, for Filipinos around the world, and for everyone who had ever felt invisible. When Simon Cowell asked what song you would perform, Miguel's answer caused a ripple through the crowd. Lupang Hinirang, he said. The Philippine national anthem. There was a pause. An anthem wasn't a safe choice. It wasn't trendy. It wasn't designed to impress judges who heard pop hits and powerhouse ballads every day. Some audience members exchanged doubtful looks. Simon raised an eyebrow. But Miguel didn't flinch. He had rehearsed this moment in his mind 1,000 times. His thoughts drifted back to his childhood in a modest neighborhood in Manila, where the streets flooded during heavy rains and electricity outages were common. His mornings began before sunrise. He helped his mother prepare food she sold at the market, then hurried to school with a backpack that had been stitched more than once. Music was never a luxury, it was an escape. At night, when the city noise softened, Miguel sang quietly so the neighbors wouldn't complain. He sang to the walls, to the stars outside the cracked window, to the memory of his father who worked overseas, missing birthdays and holidays so his family could survive. Lupang Hinirang was more than a song to Miguel. His grandmother used to place her hand over her heart every time it played on television, tears in her eyes as she told stories of struggle, resilience, and pride. She taught him that the anthem carried the soul of a nation, the pain of colonization, the fight for freedom, and the unbreakable spirit of the Filipino people. When she passed away, Miguel promised himself he would sing it on the biggest stage possible one day. That promise brought him here. The music began softly. Miguel took a deep breath, closed his eyes for half a second, and sang the first line. His voice emerged clear, pure, and unexpectedly powerful. It wasn't loud, but it was commanding. The theater fell silent. The melody wrapped itself around the audience, gently at first, then tighter with every phrase. His pronunciation was careful, respectful. He wasn't performing, he was offering something deeply personal. As he continued, emotion poured into his voice. Every note carried memory. Every lyric carried meaning. The camera panned across the audience, a Filipino immigrant wiping tears, a young child watching in awe, strangers holding their breath without realizing it. Something about Miguel's voice crossed boundaries. Even those who didn't understand the words could feel the story behind them. Halfway through the anthem, Miguel's voice wavered. For a brief moment, it seemed like nerves might take over. His hands tightened around the microphone, and his chest rose sharply as he fought to steady himself. In his mind, he saw his mother's tired smile, his father's calloused hands on a video call, his grandmother's proud eyes. He didn't stop. He couldn't. He pushed forward, his voice growing stronger, fuller, more determined. Simon Cowell, known for his brutal honesty and stone-cold reactions, leaned forward in his chair. His expression changed from curiosity to something deeper, something human. His eyes glistened, and he didn't bother hiding it. The audience noticed. The judges noticed. Something extraordinary was happening. When Miguel reached the final verse, his voice soared. It filled the room with a sense of dignity and hope that words alone couldn't explain. People began to stand, not because they were told to, but because it felt right. By the time he held the final note, the entire theater was on its feet. The sound rang out, steady and proud, before gently fading into silence. For a moment, no one spoke. No applause. No cheers. Just silence. Then the room exploded. Thunderous applause echoed from every corner. Cheers, whistles, cries, all blending into one overwhelming wave of emotion. Miguel lowered the microphone, his shoulders shaking as tears streamed down his face. He covered his mouth, stunned by what he had just experienced. Simon stood up. The crowd gasped. Judges rarely stood mid-audition. Simon took a breath, visibly emotional. "I've heard thousands of singers," he said slowly. "But what you just did, that wasn't a performance. That was truth." His voice cracked slightly. "You reminded us why music exists." The other judges echoed his sentiment, praising Miguel's courage, authenticity, and heart. But what mattered most to Miguel wasn't the praise, it was the feeling that his message had landed. Back in Manila, Miguel's mother watched the broadcast from a neighbor's home, her hands clasped tightly together. When the final note played, she broke down, sobbing openly, whispering prayers of gratitude. His father, watching from a crowded dormitory overseas, replayed the clip over and over, his co-workers silently standing behind him, sharing the moment. Social media erupted. Clips of the audition spread like wildfire. People who had never heard Lupang Hinirang searched for its meaning. Comments flooded in from all over the world, messages of respect, admiration, and shared humanity. Miguel's voice had become a bridge between cultures. But the journey didn't end there. In the days that followed, Miguel faced new challenges. The pressure grew. Expectations rose. Critics questioned whether he could live up to the moment. Self-doubt crept in late at night when the lights were off and the cheers were gone. But Miguel remembered why he started. He remembered the promise he made, not to win a trophy, but to honor his roots. He practiced harder than ever, balancing schoolwork with rehearsals, sometimes falling asleep with sheet music beside him. He stayed grounded, calling his mother daily, praying before every performance. Each step forward felt like carrying his entire community with him, and instead of fear, that gave him strength. When Miguel returned to the stage for the next round, he walked with confidence. He knew that no matter what happened next, he had already succeeded. He had been heard. He had made people feel something real. By the end of the season, Miguel's story had become more than a viral clip. It became a reminder that greatness can come from the humblest places, that courage often wears a quiet face, and that when someone sings from the heart, the world listens. Miguel didn't just represent himself. He represented millions of unseen dreams. He proved that talent doesn't need perfection, only honesty. And long after the applause faded, his voice continued to echo in the hearts of those who watched. So if this story inspired you, if it reminded you to believe a little more in yourself, in others, in the power of dreams, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because somewhere right now, another child is standing on a small stage, taking a deep breath, hoping the world will listen.